No one in paddock wants to say it yet, but we will. Aprilia is now the team to beat in MotoGP. 1-2 finish in Brazil, and Marc Bezzecchi 4 Sunday races in a row. 4 wins every single lap led. That's not just form, that's control. Ducati threw everything at it. Marc fought for it, and still Digi takes third in a straight win with Marc. And then right at the end, Ogura goes past Alex Marquez on the final lap to take P5, his best result yet. Quiet, clinically, right under Ducati's noses. This isn't just one rider run, this is a shift in the balance of MotoGP. This is the angle. Don, how amazing was this race?
How surprising was this race? I mean, after yesterday, put it this way, what are the chances of your money being on Bezzecchi to win, to dominate like that? What would have been... Well, I think even Bezzecchi, after the race, he's like, what just happened there? How did that... What just... But it's... As I said, what you really want from a MotoGP race, what you want from any kind of storyline, anything, is unpredictability. It's lovely. I mean, when you're sitting there thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? After the sprint race, it sort of looked a lot like it was going to be kind of a repeat of last year. I mean, I sat with a bunch of mates watching the sprint race, and they kind of went, you could see it's like, okay, well done, Marc, for winning the sprint race, but they were kind of going, oh, we're going to get next year again, where it's just Marquez wins every bloody race over and over, and you can just see people looking a bit disappointed, and again, it's not because Marquez, it just looked like it was going to be one of those again, and then this happens. And again, it just springs out on us that it's like something different. Okay, it was the same as last time, Bezzecchi winning, but not what we predicted. That's the big thing.
Well, I'll have you know, if we go look back at probably about episode 4, we're on episode 14 now.
Really?
I did predict that Marc Bezzecchi would be winning the season, so I predicted it. Anyway, getting back to it, here's the real number. Marco Bezzecchi's fastest lap, 1:18.654. Marc's fastest lap was a 1:18.882, and that says it all.
Yeah. What is fascinating is the way Bezzecchi was able to maintain 18s throughout most of the race. He did a few 19s here and there, mostly though 18s, even like towards the end of the race, where the two Ducatis chasing him went slipped. They started off with 18s and then a few 18s and then mostly slipped down, and they were sort of doing kind of mid-19s or towards mid-19s towards the end of the race, and they really did slip down, where Bezzecchi just seemed to be able to hold his pace. What I do think about Bezzecchi, though, and something that's a little bit of a thought, both of these two races where he's dominated have been very hot. So the temperature in Brazil yesterday, or where they were in Brazil yesterday, was hotter than in Thailand the race before. And the race before in Thailand was considered extremely hot. And I kind of wonder if Bezzecchi is not very good at those conditions, or does he thrive in those conditions? Because on Saturday morning, when they had the sort of dry-ish session, but it was sort of cold and a little bit damp, and he couldn't get heat into his tires. Ralph Fernandez struggled with that also. And I kind of wonder when they get into, especially towards the end of the year in Europe. I mean, we've got Valencia's at the end of November, where it's basically winter. And I wonder if they're not going to struggle a little bit there, with the cold. It's just a thought. Or even when they get to Europe and the temperatures are a little bit more moderate, are they going to sort of struggle a little bit more then? That's just a thought. It's just an idea. Maybe it's just coincidence. On the other hand, I don't think it's an Aprilia problem, because on the Saturday morning, Jorge Martin was pretty quick. But the thing about keeping heat in tires, you have to go out and push immediately. You can't rest a little bit and then feel your way into it, because once the heat goes out of those tires, it's gone. And I know Binder used to struggle with that when he went to MotoGP. That's one of the things he struggled with. He said, you go out on especially a cold track, and he's one of these sort of guys who goes out and starts feeling his way. But by the time you felt your way, your tires are cold, and then you can't get heat back into them. You have to go out of the pits and push immediately. And Bezzecchi, it's not really how Bezzecchi kind of works, if you know what I mean. He's more of a kind of methodical, ease it in sort of rider. So I wonder if that's not going to make more of a difference late in the year. It's an interesting thought.
It's a really good thought, and just thinking forward, obviously to Phillip Island. Last year it will be at Phillip Island, but Phillip Island is notoriously a cold track, and like you say, that could absolutely throw a spanner in the works. However, I do want to put this out there, and I'm just going to repeat those numbers. Marco Bezzecchi ran a 1:18.654. Best was lap number 12. Marc's best lap was lap 17. We're talking about the Sunday races, obviously. But Jorge Martin, he ran a 1:18.721 on lap 13. It's a 1:18.882 versus a 1:18.72 from Marc and Jorge. So even Jorge was faster than Marc.
He was in the beginning, yes, but towards the end he started losing pace. You saw Bezzecchi kind of kept his pace through. You saw those two Ducatis were catching up to Martin. I'm not entirely sure why. We kind of looked into it. He didn't really attribute a cause to that. Remember, he's still injured, so maybe he did make mention of the fact that this is only his second long run. His first long run was the Thailand race. Second long run is this one now. So he's still a bit injured. He's still a bit sore. So I wonder if that didn't come into play a little bit there. He didn't say it was tires and that, but the two Ducatis were catching him. As a matter of fact, the race was shortened, and that probably worked very much in the Jorge Martin's favour because, let's be fair, 6 more laps to go. Those Ducatis would have caught him.
I don't know, because, I mean, we saw that pass from Marc, which nobody's going to say it, but I'm going to say it. I don't think it was a good pass. If you're passing someone and you're actually forcing both of you to slow down for you to be enabled to make a pass, it's not a clean race pass. Digi went and he did a clean race pass on Marc. Marc did not do a clean race pass, and I'm surprised they didn't penalise him for it yet again.
Well, yeah, okay. Digi's pass was because Marc ran onto... So, yeah, the race was shortened because the track started breaking up in a few places. Marc ran wide and hit the crumbly bits of the track. That's when Digi got past. But,
Digi.
Yeah, Marquez, that's who he is, you know what I mean? There's actually a photo. They overtook, it was into a left-hander. There's a photo of Digi off the side of his bike. His body is against Marquez's fairing. But that's Marquez, you know what I mean? That's how he is. And look, it's not exactly a clean pass. I wouldn't call it that. It's not a gentlemanly pass. It's none of those. But the passes have to be judged on outcome based. They went a little bit wide, but not very, very wide, if that makes sense. So it wasn't a nice pass. It wasn't a great pass, but it's not like with Pedro Acosta where he sent Acosta right off the circuit. That won't do.
Yeah.
And look, this track is very difficult to pass on. That's one of the things that people said about it. It's very tricky to get past on the circuit. So I won't say I won't put it down as a brilliant pass, but I will say it just sort of made the...
It could have been cleaner.
It could have been cleaner, but it did just make the kind of cut, if that makes sense. If he'd gone in a little bit harder and pushed Digi right wide, off the track, or completely put him off his line, then I would have said, okay, yeah, all right, no.
Fair enough. And talking about this track, there was obviously quite a few issues. It seems that the track broke up during race day. We had a delay for pothole. It seems to be some issues at that track. In saying that, obviously we had lots of rain there, and I happen to know someone that's worked on roads, and they said what would have happened is when they tarred that track, there was a little bit of standing water on that straight, and that would have caused that pothole to come to fruition afterwards. It would have been dampness under the track.
What basically happens is dampness under the track. Water gets, from what I know, it works through kind of, the tar is porous, or there's a crack in the tar or something like that. Water gets through underneath into the ground underneath, and then wears away the soil underneath. And then it kind of falls apart. I mean, that was a proper sinkhole. I mean, but it's possible it was more than that. I mean, maybe it was just literally a sinkhole, so ground further beneath where the tar is, or further beneath the roadworks over there, it collapsed a bit, and then it sort of sank in. So that can happen. What I will say is well done to the Brazil track. I mean, they mended a pothole in record time. I mean, here in South Africa, we've got potholes. There's tons of them. And you can phone it in, and you might get it fixed within the next 3 election cycles, if you know what I mean. You end up talking to you'll have to talk to a president three cycles later. They fixed it in like 2 hours. Which and we're all kind of joking. Can we get those guys here? They cannot come visit South Africa? We have some work for them. You know what I mean? It's well done to them. But what happened on the Sunday is the actual surface of the track in one of the corners started crackling up, and I know, geez, like the Brazil circuit's getting a lot of credit. How can they look at this? Why don't they do things properly? No. Everybody's kind of working on. You hire professionals to do a job. You got to sort of trust them to do their job. You got to kind of get the engineers to do it. And if it doesn't quite work out properly, then it's just one of the risks. I mean, any new installation, any new build, anything like that comes with risks, comes with slight unknowns. As a matter of fact, the same thing happened in Mandalika when it first started. It started cracking up, and they just had to kind of retar the bits that weren't sort of done properly. And I suppose that's just kind of it. The guys still race. I mean, it wasn't so bad that if you look at especially Bezzecchi's lap times, he was able to maintain consistent lap times. So even in the sort of heat, you'd think the tires at least would be falling apart, but he managed to mostly maintain consistent lap times, and so it wasn't like the track was falling apart completely. It did. It crumbled in a few little areas. And I think they will be able to fix it for next year. And I look forward to that. I think this track is really cool. I think it's a lot of fun. And let's hope it all comes back and it all gets sorted out for next year.
Yeah, the prediction was they would probably qualify at about a 116. And at the end of the day, they ran, I think, a 117.4 on qualifying. So the pace obviously wasn't quite exactly where they thought it would be. Talking about times here, Don, unfortunately Pekka did lose it again. Who knows, a poor guy. But I had a look at Aldeguer, and I've got his numbers here in Morbidelli. Aldeguer was 11 seconds down from the front, and Morbidelli was 20 seconds down. So obviously they are still running on the 2025 bike. Alex is on the 26 bike as well. So he came in, he just got pipped by Ogura there on the last lap. But obviously those 25 bikes aren't as strong as the 26 bikes.
Well, okay, what I will say, that is true, completely true. And sorry, I'm actually having a gander here at the finishings. What is interesting though? Okay, the 2025 bike is not as good as the 2026. That's clear, and I don't even know what combination they're riding. They might be riding half 2024, 2025, whatever. But it is very clear that the 2026 machine seems to be a definite step up, especially when you look at De Gea and Antonio.
Yeah.
De Gea and Antonio beat Marquez. And I'm gonna say, in terms of kind of rider of the day, I would perhaps put him down as rider of the day. To beat Marc Marquez on the same machinery as him, that's not a mean feat. That's something. And one of the things the Marquez fans love talking about is the fact that it's only Marquez up there on a certain machine, even when he doesn't win. Yeah, but look at it. Look at all the other bikes, which is a point they have. It's true. Not right now. And one of the things Ducati wanted to do, and congrats to them, is they wanted to build a bike that's more universal, that can be ridden by everybody.
Yeah.
And so far they have. De Gea Antonio was quick at Thailand also. He said he had some sort of a technical issue in the race, which is why he fell back.
Yeah.
And it seems that may very well be true because, both the sprint race and now in the main race, he was up there with Marquez. Just looking at Alex Marquez was 4 seconds, nearly 5 seconds back behind the other Ducatis. So he's not featuring as well. And then we don't know. But Bagnaia, I think he's kind of lost something that he needs to find again.
I did notice that the first Japanese bike home was Zarco, and he was 12 seconds from the front,
nearly 13,
which was just behind Aldeguer. Nearly 13. Aldeguer had 11 seconds, Zarco 12 seconds. It seems like Honda is closing that gap.
It's getting there, isn't it? What I will say though is the Yamaha I think is still the worst bike on the track. But
Yep.
the thing is about 10 minutes old, so fair enough. Although look at Quartararo, where did he finish? No, he didn't do as well. I mean, the sprint race, he was right up
No.
there. At one stage, he overtook Marquez, which is it's quite something. What is interesting though is the KTM's. They really are struggling.
Oh, gosh.
They really are struggling, except for one rider, which is Pedro Acosta. Now, here in South Africa, I mean, Binder's coming under a lot of flack from a lot of people, which is something. This is something I don't understand about. Well, I do understand, but I wish people would spend more time thinking. They get emotional and they stop thinking. Binder put up a post just saying, I think it was on the Saturday. He put up a post just kind of saying, look, okay, it wasn't my day. We didn't get the great feel. We haven't got our setup right yet.
Yeah.
Which is fair because, I mean, the guys got like 9 laps of practice. You know what I mean? And then they got practically no practice on Friday, and then they got a half an hour session on Saturday morning, and it just really wasn't enough. And Binder just said, look, we don't have the pace right now. We haven't found the right setup, blah, blah, blah. And he's not slow. He is fast. Those riders are all fast, and Binder is beating 2 very fast riders. The problem is there's Pedro Acosta, who is not fast. He is unbelievably fast. The only other solution could be is Pedro Acosta's on a different bike to everybody else. Somebody did bring that up. They said KTM's a bit cash-strapped at the moment. It's possible that they've only got enough money to really put the good stuff into one bike.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that point, Don. I mean, the moment Pedro Acosta stepped onto the MotoGP bikes, you could just see the potential and the speed there. And the rumor mill obviously has been going, and it seems to be the last year for KTM with Pedro Acosta. And obviously, they know they can get some good results, and obviously that leads to sponsorships next season. So they would probably be piling all their money into one specific bike. So yes, he is a fast rider. He's probably, in my opinion, one of probably the fastest rider apart from Marc out there. And Bez is obviously doing really well. But I do think Pedro's got, if you put him on a fast bike, you will bring the results. And obviously he's also, it's no secret, he's made it very clear he wants a fast bike, and obviously KTM might just be obliging, and the other 3 guys are probably suffering for that.
It's possible. It's possible. Look, either way, if you wanna compare riders to other riders on the same bike, the guy that's clearly winning that race is Pedro Acosta by miles. I mean, he was 10 seconds. Okay, Binder crashed, which on the first lap, which is a bit unfortunate. It would have been great to see where he would have come. But so I mean, Pedro Acosta was 10.6 seconds behind the leader. The next was in 15th place, Adea Bastianini, who was 23 seconds. So he's 13 seconds slower. Vinales was 36, and Vinales, this guy, he if he's not on a bike that works for him, he just can't ride. The dude just struggles. But he's got that very kind of smooth sort of style, and it's a style that requires a bike that works well. It's one of those sort of, it's a very kind of demanding style of the bike, so that kind of does make sense. So Vinales was 36 seconds behind. He was 26 seconds behind Pedro Acosta, and I mean, that's just ridiculous. So Pedro Acosta is clearly winning that race, although I do think Binder would have been probably the second KTM, and I wonder how far behind he would have been. There was an interesting little thing that somebody pointed out, and that Enea Bastianini actually said this was BS, is when they announced that the race would be shortened by 6 laps. They went to each rider one at a time and told them about it and discussed it with the team. But they started at the number 1 position. So who was on pole? Gian Antonio had heard about it first. And they worked their way up the grid until the last riders, which were the 3 KTMs, were the last 3. So the front guys had enough time to quickly change tires. By the time the rear guys were told, it was just about time for the race to start. And there wasn't time. So Bastianini was saying, I would have changed tires, and they couldn't figure out what's going on. Why is everyone suddenly changing tires up front there? Finally, by the time they got told, it's like, oh, hang on a second, I can, So there is that to be told, and maybe Acosta had a chance to change tires also. I don't know. Probably not. But yeah, I do kind of wonder if Acosta was on an Aprilia or Ducati, it's highly possible he is the fastest rider on the grid right now. There's a hell of a, if you compare him to the other riders and the riders he's beating, he very well is the fastest rider on the grid, by quite some margin. And I think if he does move to Ducati next year, and it sounds very, very likely he is, I think those other riders might be in very, very big trouble.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm really happy to report that Ogura is doing so well. I'm really happy for him. And
you are a big Ogura man, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, you
I
are.
am, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of talent. I spotted him earlier on, and I've been singing his praises throughout. And I still think he's got the potential to get onto the podium. Then I'd love for him to get on a podium.
I hope so too. He needs to pick up his early race pace. He said this in Thailand. He's not the greatest rider at the beginning of the race, and he probably could have qualified a bit higher, but he got up to 5th. And he got past Alex Marquez in the end. Next up was Marc Marquez, which is, I mean, that's no mean feat. Fermin Aldeguer, by the way, who's done 0 practice, 0 anything, he got an 8th place.
Yep.
And he was only 3 seconds behind Alex Marquez. So, sheesh, well done to him. Seriously, well done to him. He was also on the same motorcycle. He was 8 seconds ahead of Frankie Morbidelli. And I mean, wow. Okay, wow. And remember, he's done no preseason testing, no anything. He missed Thailand. He arrived at this track completely green, completely out of it. And 8 seconds ahead of the guy on the same motorcycle as you. That is just utterly incredible. Diogo Moreira finished 13th. Okay, well done to him. He's 21 seconds behind. Luca Marini was 18. He was 3 seconds behind Luca Marini. So well done to him. 3 seconds behind Luca Marini, 8 seconds behind Zarco. So well done to him. And it's kind of fun having a Brazilian. I mean, the rider, obviously, not the haircut. It's quite fun having a Brazilian on the track. I mean, I always used to like Alex Barros. Remember Alex Barros? Lost to the late breakers, this sort of little stalwart, stoic little Brazilian fella. And he used to just completely outbrake everybody. And then he would outbrake everybody on the old 500s. I mean, from miles back, he would come flying past on the brakes, get to the middle of the corner and stop dead. And then cause a bit of a pile-up behind him. I'm just looking back here. Sorry, I'm actually going through a lot of this now. The Alex Rins was top Yamaha. He was he was in 14th place. So I think KTM is currently the second worst motorcycle. It's only Pedro. That's the point. I was trying to think where was it going with this. Sorry, for Donnie it's sort of late afternoon. For me, it's very early morning. And I generally, my brain only wakes up at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, I'm going to go, what? Where am I? What's going on? And then we go, wait, did I do a podcast? What did I say? So forgive me now if I say anything a bit out of it. But so KTM, I think, is the second worst bike on the grid right now, for only kind of beating Yamaha, whose bike is 10 minutes old. Exactly. Rins finished 14th. He got points. Well done to him. He's only 22 seconds back, which is actually pretty good. And Rins has been pretty good this whole time. Quartararo didn't manage to get his sprint pace quite as good over the long race, so he was in 16th, 26 seconds behind. And then Razgat Lioglu was 4 seconds behind Quartararo, which again then beating Vinales. So Quartararo's coming to terms with this. He's getting better. He will improve. And something he did mention, and this is going to be interesting, and I think we've mentioned this already also, is next year they move to Pirelli Tyres. And Razgat Lioglu was saying then he can return to his favoured riding style, which is really hard braking, back wheel in the air, hopping all over the place, going all out of sorts, which you can't do on a Michelin. When you do that on a Michelin, it just locks up the front wheel. I think riders like Binder will also benefit, because he's also that kind of rider. He likes his bike to go sideways and out of shape and all that kind of stuff. That's the way he prefers to ride. Even when he used to ride Moto3, he was a sideways rider on a Moto3 bike, which is just unheard of. And then if you remember, he raced the KTM and Moto2, and he was sideways at every single corner. He would go sideways into the corner, sideways out of the corner. He used to ride that bike on the absolute ragged edge. Now he gets on these Michelin shod MotoGP bikes, and especially the modern day bikes now, the ones they're riding right now.
Yeah.
And when you try and ride on the ragged edge like that, it just locks the front wheel. And,
It does.
and it's so difficult for them, trying riders who sort of grown up and kind of developed everything around this sort of style, and now suddenly you've got this front tire just does not want to work under those conditions. So.
Talking about riding styles, I did see online that apparently, I think it's Neil Hodgkinson that pointed out that apparently Marc is trying a new way of leaning off a bike a little bit more than he used to. Did you pick up on that?
I did not pick up on that. Well, they lean off the bike a lot already. They basically have. You saw riders like Jorge Martin has a shoulder on the ground going through certain corners. And again, the reason they get off like that is you want to try and get your weight as low as possible and as far to the inside as possible. Get the center of gravity as low as possible and far to the inside. And about, how much is it? It's about 30% of the weight of the motorcycle and rider combined. I'm trying to think. Let's do some colors. So it's something like that. Is the rider. So unlike with Formula One cars where the driver's just sort of strapped in and that's sort of it, and your center of gravity just stays the same. On a motorcycle, it can change a
Mechanical
lot
grip,
depending on what the rider does. So they try and get their bodies as far to the inside and as low as possible. And so maybe he's looked at it and thought, I can get my body even lower. I can try and get my body even more to the inside, and why not?
Next weekend, COTA, obviously Marc's favorite track. If Marc doesn't win there, is this season a Aprilia season?
Yes. I was watching, so I'm part of a couple of WhatsApp groups. I think you are too also, for MotoGP, and there's a whole lot of commentary on those from all sorts of fun characters. and one of them pointed out that every single time the commentators mention the words COTA, they always follow it with Marc Marquez's favorite track. So it's no longer COTA. We're not going to COTA. We're going to COTA, Marc Marquez's favorite track. That's now the long form. That's the full name of COTA from now on. You have to, when you say COTA, you have to follow it with Marc Marquez's favorite track. Although he hasn't won there in 5 years. But apart from that, Marc Marquez's favorite track.
You know what? Why are these commentators such fanboys, man? I don't get it.
I've got to figure out how to do it. The guys they've got a lot of guys here in South Africa get the TNT, the English, coverage
commentary
of it, where they've got Neil Hodgson and all of that. And they're saying apparently that's a lot more kind of, because remember that the MotoGP commentators, they're employed by Dorna or whatever they're called. They're called the MotoGP Entertainment Group or something like that, which is a bit of a mouthful. I'm just going to say Dorna, sod it. And they are employed by Dorna. Their job is to create further, to hype the sport up, to kind of, they getting these little blue-eyed boys, and kind of hyping them up is part of it, and whoever wins has to get mounds and mounds of praise on them no matter what, so whoever wins is the most glorious thing that ever happened at the moment. It's and that is their job. That is what they're kind of paid to do. Their paymasters are putting them there to promote the sport, to grow the sport, and promoting Marquez and creating him as this great child of glory is part of that.
Throwback to the end of a race, and Jorge Martin comes, he does this beautiful stoppie, and he runs into the pits and he jumps up in pure jubilation. And obviously I follow Jorge on his Instagram, and his mom actually said, it's so good to see you so happy. And I don't think people actually realize what he went through last year. He had some very serious injuries, and I'm so happy for him, man.
Well, they were saying that a couple of months before he climbed on a MotoGP bike, people were helping him eat. Like, he couldn't actually eat. That's how bad his sort of injuries were. And, to get back on a motorcycle. To his credit, and I mean, I always kind of thought Marc Marquez was kind of the king of getting out there and immediately going fast. That's the kind of guy he is. He will go out of the pits, having not ridden for years, and first lap out, he'll just immediately go fast. He's very good at locking into the pace very quickly. Although Jorge Martin did very similar. I mean, he arrived in Thailand and he immediately went quickly. And they sort of everybody asked him about that, and his words were, "Well, I haven't forgotten how to ride a MotoGP bike." And we saw again when they went out after all the rain and everything affected Brazil. Here they're on this brand new track that's still very greasy, still very green, and he was immediately able to run near the top. As we said in our kind of half weekend sort of what do we call that anyway? Catch up. There we go. Is those sessions were all dominated by the sort of daring do people, the people who can go out and go really quickly, really fast. And you saw the guys like Bezzecchi and a lot of the others that's not really their sort of style, were kind of further down. And it's amazing. Martin also is one of those sort of guys who can get on the bike and lock into a fast pace almost immediately, whatever the conditions. So that's one other thing for him. But we'll see. I think he's going to improve. He's going to get better. I think Bezzecchi has a better kind of groove with the motorcycle. He's more in tune with the motorcycle at the moment. I think Martin can still improve there. He can still kind of find his groove a little bit better, and I think he will improve. We'll have to see what's going to happen. As you say, COTA, if Marc Marquez does not win at COTA, or gets beaten at COTA, then we can really properly say Ducati's in a spot to bother. Then we can say if the Aprilias dominate again, then definitely, they're in a spot to bother.
Well, I do think right now Aprilia is looking very strong. They got 1, 2, and 5. In the top 10, I had a look. There was 3 Aprilias, 3 Ducatis, and the rest also being made up by the other manufacturers. So Aprilia has definitely stepped up their game. And I think COTA is going to be really interesting. And we don't have to wait long. It's this weekend.
It is. I'm so excited. They fly, just a whole lot of north. They jump on a plane and just go up. Hello, pilot. Carry on uphill until you find Texas. Yes, sir. Thank you. No problem.
That's the one. Hey, Don, it was awesome catching up with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you too, man.
Hey, guys, please hit that like and subscribe. Please leave your comments below for either myself or Don, and we'll get back to you guys. Until this weekend, keep a rubber side down.